What gear should I use to shoot a sport or event? What gear do I take? Why is this important? If you show up to shoot an event or game with the wrong gear, you may not be able to shoot any pictures, or you will have difficulties taking good pictures or any pictures. What you will learn. This lesson will help you to determine what gear you will need to use to shoot a sport or event. The second half of the lesson will be how to build a sport event chart. This is an evaluation matrix that we're going to be using. Down the left-hand side, what, where, and when. Across the top, distance, lighting, zoom range. When we evaluate a sport or event, this is what we use to figure out what gear we need. What, where, when. What are you going to shoot? Where is the event or game? When is the game? The goal is to determine how far you will be from the subjects, how much light will be on the subjects, and finally, what gear you will need. Distance. How far are you from the subject? What lens will you need for that distance? For the gym, the 17-50 is more appropriate for the close distance. The 70-300 is too long. For the field, the 70-300 is more appropriate for the longer distance. The 17-50 is too short, except for the sidelines. Lighting. How much light will there be? Lots of light? Daytime. Plenty of sunlight. Dim? Low light. Night? No sunlight, only the lights in the stadium. Gym? Again, no sunlight, only the lights in the gym. Theater? No lights, only the theater lights. Low light? Maybe we use a flash. No flash for most sports. Why? In some or many sports, a flash is not allowed. The referees could have you ejected from the game. Gear. You're going to need a camera with high max ISO and lens with a large aperture. That's a smaller f-stop number. You can use a flash, however, for non-sports events, such as presentations and dances. Zoom range. For some sports, you want a zoom with a wide zoom range so you do not have to constantly change lenses. Example, the suggested general purpose lens is the 18-140. That way you don't have to be changing when you run out of reach with your 18-50 and you have to switch to your 50-200. The 18-140 lets you go right through from 18 all the way up to 140 with single lens. Next is for baseball, softball, and golf. Same thing, except we use a longer zoom. Goes from 18 all the way up to 400. That way you don't have to be switching between the 18-140 and your 100-400. You just use the same lens and just turn the zoom ring. Next is the gym. Student assembly and basketball. Where and when are the same. It's in the gym. Now, what is different? Student assembly. Students are not moving or not moving very fast. So you can use a slower shutter speed and a slower lens. Basketball. You have to shoot at 1/800th of a second or faster. To do that, you need a faster lens, like the 17-50 2.8 or a 35 1.8. Example, football, soccer. The what and the when is the same. We're playing football and soccer and it's 10 a.m., great light. The where is different. On the left, we're shooting on the sidelines. That the distance is appropriate for the 18-140, 70-200, or 70-300. On the right, the where is different. Now we're on the top of the bleachers. quite a bit further away. Now we're talking 70 to 300, 100 to 400, or even 150 to 600. This is an illustration of what I mean. The red line is the view line from the top of the bleachers to the middle of the football field. The orange line is the view line from the sideline to the middle of the field. You can see how much longer the red line is. This is why you need a longer lens from the top of the bleachers. Example, football and soccer. What and where are the same? You're going to play football or soccer. Where is our school? On the sidelines. Distance appropriate for the 18 to 40, 140, 70 to 200, or 70 to 300. The difference is the when. 10 a.m., lighting is good. When the sun is up, you can use any lens. At night, at 8 p.m., the lighting is poor. You will need to use the fastest lens you have, probably the 70 to 200 2.8. Now that you've completed the exercise of collecting the information about what gear you need for each of the sports events, we put that into a sport event gear chart. This is a sport and event gear chart for home games. If you look down the left side, you will see the sports. You look at the top, what, where, when, the camera you need, and the lens. So, if you're going to shoot football, you look on the chart and you see football, where our field, daytime game, camera. You can use either the D5100 or the D5600. Lens, you can use the 18 to 140 or 70 to 300. Next line down. Now we have to shoot a night game. Instead of the two cameras, the 5100 and 5600, now it's only the D5600. That is a better night camera than the D5100. As for lens, you're looking at a 70 to 210 f4. It's a faster lens than either the 18 to 140 or 70 to 300. So that's your night lens. Now, when you go further down, you notice wrestling. We have two entries for wrestling. One, the where is a small gym, and the other is a student union. Why? Because when you look under the lens, you see you have two different lens requirements. The student union is dimmer than the small gym, so you need a faster lens. Now we make a change. We add away games. Third line for soccer and football, we have Sequoia Field. Here's the reason. Night, lights poor. The lens you need, 70 to 200 2.8. It's a stop faster than the 70 to 210 f4. This identifies fields and venues where you have light problems. Same thing with basketball. The second line for basketball, it's St. Louis Gym, light poor. Under the lens, 35 1.8. It's a faster lens than your 17 to 50 2.8. Making the sport event gear chart. You want to put all your sports and event locations onto the chart. Now, when I say event locations, I mean places where you have events on campus, such as your theater, your student union, any place where you regularly shoot. Arrange the sports and events in an order that makes sense to you. What makes sense to me may not make sense to you, and we'll see examples later. Determine the lens to use. We'll start with an educated guess based on what gear you have. Then you have to follow it by testing. Away games will always be a problem. You do not know the lighting conditions until you get there. Will your gear work? Maybe, maybe not. Once you determine the lighting condition, document it. Next, you need to figure out how often will you play at that away school, and will you need to take pictures. the decision may be, well, we only play there once every 3 years. We don't bother taking pictures there. Okay, here we go. Away games. Football, if you notice the third line, it's in orange. Sequoia Field, night lights, poor. Lens, the recommended lens is a 70 to 200 2.8. But it's crossed out because you don't have one. Your fastest lens is a 70 to 210 f4. So under notes, your notes are lights too low. Do not go unless it's a championship. So basically, you've made the decision in this case, you don't have the equipment to shoot at that field. Same thing for basketball, second line. St. Louis Gym, lights poor. Recommended lens, 35 1.8. But you don't have one. The only lens you have is the 17 to 50 2.8. Again, notation, lights too low. Do not go unless it's a championship. Okay, now we have some sample sports and event gear charts. Gear chart, home games by venue. This is organized by venue. So in the top left, you'll see field games and the diamond games. They're in green. They're grouped together. Gym in purple. Pool in blue. Other in light blue. Tennis, track and field, cross country, golf. And finally at the bottom, your theater. Note what's in the camera and lens columns. These are the cameras that I have put here as a recommendation. However, the reality is you only have the gear that you have, not the gear that I might recommend to you. So in this chart, you see the camera. There's only one camera, the D5600. Lenses. Some of the lenses on the previous chart are not included here because you may not have it. If you go down that list, you will notice there is no 70 to 200 2.8. There is no 100 to 400 lens. There is no 18 to 400 lens. So you fill in this chart based on the gear you have, because that is all you can shoot. You can't shoot what you don't have. This is another sort of that chart, except this one is an alpha sort. Badminton comes before baseball, and baseball is before basketball. So it's an alpha sort of all your sports. This is another look at the same thing, except now we go by season. Fall, winter, spring, and other venues. This way, if it's fall, you just look at the fall section of the chart. If it's winter, you just look at the winter section. You ignore the rest of the chart. Again, it's how the chart works best for you, not for me. So, when a new photographer goes to shoot a game or event, they no longer have to ask, what gear do I take? Graduation. When you have 6 of your 7 photographers graduate, the next year you are not starting from scratch. What do you mean not starting from scratch? When they ask, what gear do I take? You tell them, just look it up on the chart. The end.